Dr. Steen Hansen, and the title is Increased Dissemination of Registered Defibrillator is associated with higher rate of bystander defibrillation in public locations, but not in residential area, a nationwide study.
Thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Steen Hansen. I come from Aalborg University in Denmark. I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me to this press conference. So, I have received an unrestricted research grant from the Danish foundation Trygfonden. So, my study is about out-of-hospital cardiac arrests and how patients defibrillated by bystanders before arrival of ambulance has changed over time. And these are the main results of our study. On the y-axis, to the left, we have bystander defibrillation in percentage, and on the right y-axis, we have registered AED units. On the x-axis, we have the study period from 2001 to 2012. And what we see is, as marked by the red curve, is a marked change in bystander defibrillation from 2001, from about 1.5% to about 12% in 2012. The most marked change is from 2008, from about 2% to the 12% in 2012. During the same study period, there was no change in patients defibrillated by bystanders in residential locations. Also on the figure is, on the plot, is placed the increase in number of registered AED or defibrillator units available for public from 2006 to 2012, with a topping in 2012 of 1,700 units. Only 1/5 of those defibrillators were actually placed near residential locations. So what we see here is a marked increase actually from 2001 to 2012, from 1.5% up to 12%. We also wanted to see how survival changed among these patients defibrillated. On this plot, we have on the y-axis 30-day survival in percentage, and again on the x-axis we have the study period. And actually what we see is that, as marked by the red curve, in the beginning of the study period, even though the patients were actually defibrillated, survival was low at about below 10%, with a high increase to about 55% at the end of the study period. The blue curve shows how patients who were not defibrillated by bystanders changed in the study period, from again below 10% to about 20%. And these were for public locations. We also wanted to consider the same thing in residential locations. Again, we found in the beginning of the study period, even among patients defibrillated by bystanders, a low survival, almost none, and then at the end of the study period, an increase to about 25%. We also saw that patients who were not defibrillated by bystanders in the beginning of the period were only about 1 to 2%, with an increase to about 5% at the end of the study period. So how could this be, and what could be likely explanations for this increase? Well, in Denmark, we have taken a lot of initiatives to increase the use of defibrillators, including mandatory resuscitation training in elementary schools and when acquiring a driver's license. All these initiatives has resulted in more Danish citizens being educated in actually performing resuscitative attempts. In addition, there have been a general dissemination of AEDs on both public but also on private initiatives, with placement of these automated external defibrillators in communities. However, in 2007, what we like to call the Danish AED network was founded in Copenhagen, and this network at that time covered about 20% of the Danish population. This network became nationwide in 2010, and in addition was linked to emergency medical dispatch centers. This linkage allowed the dispatcher at the dispatch center to locate a nearby AED and while guiding the bystander at the cardiac arrest site to perform CPR, but also to locate a nearby AED. And this linkage to these emergency medical dispatch centers became nationwide in 2011. So 3 things have happened overall. More people are aware of using an AED, more AEDs are available, and they are locatable. These are the conclusions of our study. Bystander defibrillation increased to 12% in public locations, but however, it remained low at about 1% in residential locations. Survival was, at the end of the study period, at 55% following public bystander defibrillation in public locations. And this is actually comparable to other studies reporting survival rates following bystander defibrillation, such as casinos and airports in a selected environment. In residential locations following bystander defibrillation, it was 25%. And we believe that these multiple initiatives combined, including dissemination of defibrillators, an AED network, and increased education of the population are likely explanations for these results. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Do you have information about who uses the defibrillator? Which are these bystanders who act initially? Young or old or educational? Or
unfortunately, we do not have any information concerning the bystanders who actually acted. Yet we are beginning to interview them, but it takes a while because it was only at the end of the study period that we began collecting these kind of informations. But in a couple of time, we will get some more informations. A very good question. Yes.
No more questions. Pascal?
Well, the only question that I have, I'm still concerned about the low use of defibrillators in private settings. Of course, you cannot recommend that you put a defibrillator in every home, but what would be your approach to this problem? Are we going to put a defibrillator in the police cars, as we advocate? And should we put more emphasis over there? Are we going to address more the high-risk populations, like patients that just suffered a myocardial infarction? What would be your approach? And this is a little bit aside the conclusions of your presentation, I understand.
Well, I think that is a very, very good question and a subject for discussion. But what we can see right now is that this doesn't seem to work so far. And I agree. I think that what you actually recognize in a residential location or a private settings, it has other challenges than in a public location. So you have to treat or to consider those 2 locations separately. And I think that the problem in a private setting is that usually there is only one bystander, and of course, that bystander should perform CPR. And then the best thing to do could be that another bystander or a so-called first responder could bring the AED to the location and assist. And that could be a solution with the police officers, or firefighters, or lay persons who have all been tried as first responders. So I think you have to consider this for an optimal treatment as a combination of the 2. Because in a public location where a lot of people are available, I don't think you will need so-called first responder programs. I think with placing stationary AEDs is efficient enough in these locations.
Thank you so much.